This is literally like being on the Titanic as it's sinking, and somebody runs to you and says that we need to leave immediately, the boat is sinking, and you say, I don't know what you're talking about, my side just got 100 feet higher. Vivek Ramaswamy, curious little fellow who made a name for himself at the recent GOP clown circus debate and turned a lot of heads for basically every bad reason, actually every bad reason. The DeSantis spoiler. In some polls after that debate was released, Ramaswamy actually was topping DeSantis. Like he was blowing him out in polling numbers, and was second only to Donald Trump. And by second only, I mean he was still down like 40 points, but he was on top of DeSantis. He mounted him basically. Well, not mounted him, but he mounted a comeback. He came back. Anyways, he did really well in the debate, like pertaining to a lot of Republicans. That's what they think. And to prove it, CNN did a little post-debate poll with a bunch of very white, very conservative, well, mostly very white, mostly very conservative Republican voters to see what they thought. You know they're Republican voters because, as you see, many of them are wearing red, and this one has a cowboy hat.
Here's what I want to ask you about. Who you thought did the best during this debate? Basically, who do you think won the debate? I'm going to do it in alphabetical order to be fair. Anyone think Doug Burgum did the best? That's 0. Anyone think Chris Christie did the best? He certainly got most of the airtime. A lot of the airtime, not most of the airtime. How about Ron DeSantis? How many of you think Ron DeSantis did the best? That's 2 people.
Two for Pampas.
How about Nikki Haley? 1, 2, 3, 4 people.
Okay, those are the
Asa
normal
Hutchinson?
ones. Well, like more normal. They're all insane, but the more like old guard type of Republicans.
Mike Pence? 0. Vivek Ramaswamy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tim Scott?
All right, proof right there that a lot of Republicans have been enjoying Ramaswamy. They like the way he talks. He's basically a Trump glizzy rider through and through, almost 100%. He only differs to Trump on very specific small issues outside. But yes, with his boisterous nature, his insane, incoherent policies, non-existent foreign policy, and completely ridiculous points seem to have swayed and swooned the Republicans. Now he's another billionaire, fast-talking, used car salesman, snake oil salesman, rich guy who's here to clean up the place because he knows how to run a company. So that must mean that he knows how to run a country, and he has a lot of money. So that means he knows how to make sure you have a lot of money because he took it from you to get that money. Definitely. That's totally how it works. POV, I'm a Republican. I'm very smart, apparently. But with this being said, a lot of eyes, not only from Republicans, but from the broader media started to be put on Ramaswamy. And for a lot of people who are running for president or higher office, something like this would be a good thing, a boon, a benefit to your campaign. But for a lot of Republicans, the fact that people are now listening to what you say for many times, and honestly these days, can only be a real detriment. And so that happened, and people started to actually look into who this guy is and what he believes. Things started to go downhill very quickly when he started to be able to talk more, when he started to have more time on the mic and be asked to go more places. He started to run his mouth more, and the more he ran his mouth, the more garbage fell out. And the more garbage fell out, it started to pile around him, like he's one of those streamers who streams for 24 hours, 27 hours straight, just packing trash in around them while they play League or Overwatch or WoW or something. I'm not sure. Something along those lines. And it all started actually right after he got off of the debate stage when he was asked about his response to his ideas pertaining to wanting to cut funding to Ukraine.
What's that?
Why are you against supporting Ukraine?
Because it does not advance.
Oh my gosh, bro is so sweaty. I've never seen a sweatier man in my entire life. Holy shit, he sweated his whole hairline off. That's crazy to me, bro. That's remarkable. Chrome Dome out here. Sleek, he's got the Giuliani special. All right. He is a wet boy. That is true. He has drip, and I do not mean clothes. POV, you're molding.
American interests, and as the U.S. president, I'm not running for any other role other than looking after the interests of Americans. However, my plan to end the Ukraine war will actually be probably better for Ukraine. At least it comes out with its sovereignty intact.
How so?
Which is not the plan they're on right now. You mark my words, the way this war ends right now, without the U.S. actually stepping in and saying we're not going to fund any more of it, is going to be some post-Zelensky warlord takes over with a couple $100 billion of American military equipment, just like what happened after the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and you see how far that got.
Vivek, did you
Okay, so he said literally nothing. Listen, I'm gonna solve the war. It's gonna be so easy. I'll just solve it. It's just gonna be perfect. Their sovereignty's gonna be intact, and we're just gonna stop funding the war, and then everything's just gonna be fine, and it's gonna be okay. No, it won't be fine. It won't be okay. You're stupid. That's what I'm saying. That bro has actually literally zero foreign policy whatsoever. Ah, yes, Afghanistan, Ukraine, literally the same. Well, they're both countries that he didn't know existed until like bombs started dropping. So. It does make sense. These type of like weirdo pseudo populists and having literally negative foreign policy, name a more iconic duo. Honestly, it seems like you can't. With that being said, he started to get a little bit more clout, and like I said, it started to become a hindrance to him because he started to talk more and people started to listen more. And when that happened, people started to pick up on some things that he was saying that seems like that seemed like it's a problem. And one of the problems that he had very clearly are on race. So let's take a little look real quick at some of his comments about race. It also did here on CNN where he was asked about some of his comments about race, and it seems like it didn't blow over too well. A lot of the questions pertained to about race. This question specifically pertains to the Jacksonville, Florida mass shooting that happened where a racist man went in and killed 3 black people and then killed himself, all to start a race war or to get one over on the darkies or something along those lines. We'll go into an in-depth conversation about that, Florida, the NAACP here in the future. But for now, know that it's a mass shooting, a racially motivated mass shooting against black people. And this is what he has to say about that.
Ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him.
He's all around you. Okay, he's everywhere. He's all around you. It's kind of how it works. Country was literally built on the backs of minorities for the benefit of white people. But okay,
never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner.
Here's my thing. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you here. Unicorn, nice one. I'm gonna be honest with you here. If you've never met a racist person in your life, you look left and right, and you've never seen a racist person ever, it means there's one place that you haven't looked yet. It may be inside you.
and maybe those exist too.
So just because somebody hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of white supremacy doesn't exist as a threat in America. What do you think goes through the minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy?
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics. But I was responding to a question where someone asked me, what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly, most of that racism has come from the modern left.
But the left is racist. They're mean to me. They're so mean. They're like, hey man, you're brown. Don't you know that Republicans are terrible to brown people? And I'm like, well, I'm rich, and so I couldn't care less. And then they're like, you don't care about other brown people. And I'm like, now look who the real racist is. So true, dude. Oh man, nobody has ever spoken more truth in their entire life. Oh no, let's see what he has to say. But yeah, also it's incredibly curious how he's like, I don't want to politicize this, even though it's already politicized because it's a racially motivated murder. How do you not politicize a political mass shooting? It was done for politics. How could you, like, you can't politicize it. It's already about politics. Like, okay,
It's happening.
okay, all right, buddy. Didn't work out. Didn't work out for him, okay? And then it actually only got worse. But I want to watch a little bit more of this specifically, but in longer format, because not only is he going to comment about racism that he experienced, and he said that he didn't experience any, but then he also makes some very curious claims about, you guessed it, the Ku Klux Klan. Let's talk about that real quick.
To another level on Friday, in addition to the comment we played, you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown vor."
True. We don't need any brown faces that don't want to be a brown vor. Thank you, CNN. Incredibly interesting stuff. Yeah, but I mean, Presley's right. She's right. I hate to say it, but she's right. Absolutely right. Now, I will say that you don't have to be a brown voice in the sense that I thought I heard that. She did misspeak and said vor instead of voice. But with that being said, the only thing I disagree with is that you don't need to be a spokesman or like a spokesperson or an advocate for your race. You don't, because you were thrusted into that, and you can just be if you just want to be a normal person who just does normal things and is just chilling out, then fine, you can do that. Sure, whatever. I don't think that you have to be forced to be thrusted into that and to be thrusted into the advocate position if you're just somebody who was born brown. That being said, but if you do decide to speak and you do decide to be political in this way and you do decide to do these things, then yeah, I think like the least that you can do is just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? You don't have to be an advocate, but don't advocate against the good advocacy. Just shut up. Just move on. Do something else with your life. You don't have to like spend your time trying to discredit good advocacy just because you just because of your shitty ideals or whatever else that's going on in your life, you know? The problems that you have, don't make it anybody else's problem, you know?
A brown voice. About that, you said, these are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK. You know, I'm sure, the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color.
Yes. We all know the KKK, very much pro-black voices. Sorry, pro-brown voices. True.
Predicts something about the content
you
of
didn't
your
just say
viewpoints
that. You
or
didn't
your
just say
ideas.
they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color,
waffling
that
is
I know
crazy.
something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate.
Does he not know what she's saying? Is he actually just stupid? I don't know. The more you listen to these types of people talk, the more you realize that just because you're rich does not mean you're smart. Like, I know a lot of people want to try to equate like a dollar sign in your bank account to the brain cells in your head, but I have to tell you that the ratio many times is far, far off. It's way more off than you may imagine. I don't know. Getting ahead in this country is more about how many throats you can step on to get to the top than it is about how many problems you can necessarily solve or how many or how good of a person you are. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you. Disagree. Elon Musk is an absolute genius. Yeah, he is a mega brain stable genius. Probably one of the smartest mans to ever exist.
Debate.
This is dividing
that
our
is
country
a debate.
To a breaking point.
That is a debate
that
that is based on non-violent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing, and another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against black people.
I mean, to Republicans, I'm going to be honest with you, they believe that words are violence, and in this sense. I remember specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she was chased off violently when she was in New York protesting Donald Trump being arrested for committing crimes against the people of New York. When what she actually meant is that people said, "Fuck you, you go home. We don't like your we don't want you here, dumbass. We don't like losers like you in our state." And then she was asked to leave. Her shit was so shitty that she was asked to leave. It was crazy. It was crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, I can 100% imagine it. Disagreeing with them is violence in this specific instance, and not in the same sense of violence as in it would further along a system of violence or plays into a system of violence against people. They just literally mean it's mean to me, and so it's violent. It just don't make no sense. It's not comparable to the KKK in any way, shape, or form. She literally asked you to speak up for black people or black and brown people, or just shut the fuck up. That's all she asked.
How on earth is she a modern grand wizard
let's be intellectually
of that
honest.
kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about. There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, that if you're black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view.
That is true. To solve discrimination, we need more discrimination. That's why we all know that it's been said by the wokeites for years that to overcome discrimination, that one brown person has to take the life of one white baby. The firstborn white baby in a white household must be sacrificed to the altar of melanin for us to be able to overcome all discrimination. If you ever wondered why the white birth rate is so low, it's because the firstborn babies in each white household is actually not counted as a real child because they will soon be sacrificed to Yaqub. Inshallah. Inshallah. This fucking goon, I can't. He is a goon. He is a goon, ain't he? He really is. We all know this is true. Bro, they forgot to sacrifice me. Come here, I'll sacrifice your ass. I'll sacrifice your ass right now. Yaqub giveth and Yaqub taketh away.
That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being a grand wizard of the KKK?
If that's the case, why can't I accuse him of being a grand wizard of the KKK?
Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history. So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now
I'm not sure if you can say that when it comes to Republicans. It still is. It's literally still around right now. At this moment in time, they're making moves. Like how like the fact that I know that this guy doesn't believe what he's talking about, and he's also very stupid, or just simply lying, or both, is because he literally just said was.
Oh, that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today? The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think that is an intellectually useful starting point for a provocative discussion that we need to have in this country.
The whole point is the KKK wasn't just about rhetoric.
We have to speak openly.
They lynched people, they murdered people, they raped people, they burned their homes.
And that was wrong.
Simply
that was obviously wrong.
Bro. Bro thinks he's is the KKK bad argument. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's why we say you shouldn't just compare them like that, because the fact that he's doing this downplays the KKK and how bad and evil they were as an organization and are still today, especially back when they had more power over US politics and could have way more sway than they do still today. But you know, they still have sway. It's just called the police. Anyways, with that being said, it's just like you don't know what you're saying. The fact that you're comparing these two things is just, you just have literally no clue what you're saying. I wouldn't compare someone who is just kind of racist to, I wouldn't compare someone who's just kind of racist to the literal Ku Klux Klan. Like, the fact that you even said that makes me understand that you don't understand the history of these groups and how bad they are and why they're as infamous as they are and why their legacy carries such weight in American politics. You just don't get it. You just throw it around flippantly because you just think bad thing bad, and all the bad things are similarly bad because they're bad, and that's it. Right? And that's the idea of not understanding, because you bring up, because he's lifting up the KKK here. If, hey, you're brown, you should, like, if you have the opportunity to, you should use your voice to speak up on brown issues if you can, if you want to. And I shouldn't speak because I'm brown, and that's literally the KKK, are two wildly different things. And he thinks in his mind he's bringing like Ayanna Presley's ideas down to like the KKK's level, but what he's actually doing is bringing the KKK up to Ayanna Presley's level, making it more normal, passable sort of idea of what they are as this terrorist organization, as this genocidal terrorist organization that was ripping through America and is still making moves, killing people, hunting people, terrorizing people still today. It just doesn't make any sense unless you're simply just racist. Yeah, he's trying to be like, it's in the past, it's not a problem. We had Obama. How can you say there's racism when we have Obama?
Wrong.
Okay, so again,
that is obviously a wrong thing.
If you want to have an intellectual
Absolutely.
discussion, do you think that maybe comparing her to the Grand Wizard and the notion of what she said to being a modern leader of the KKK was maybe a step too far, or you stand by what you said?
I stand by what I said.
Okay, he's stupid. All right, this is why you should never trust Republicans when it comes to black and brown issues, because a lot of them just simply, well, almost all of them, if not all of them, simply just don't get it. They don't understand it. They can't understand it. You know, it never happened to them, and so for them, it's not worth caring about because they've never experienced it. If you did, that's a personal problem.
To provoke an open and honest discussion in this country, because there is a gap, Dana, between what people will say in private today and what they will say in public. I think we need to close that gap. I think we need to have real, open, honest, raw conversation as Americans. That is our path to national unity.
Raw we can go.
And there are many Americans today who are deeply frustrated by the new culture of anti-racism that's really racism in new clothing.
And
anti-racism is the real racism. Me when I'm totally not racist. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. All right. Sure, buddy. Yeah, that's totally what's going on. 100%.
Have that debate in the open. Dana, I think
I'm
that
not
you're
so
doing,
sure how
with due respect, what many in the media do, picking on some fringe comment in the context of a broader context that I was offering it in a speech.
All right, so you just said that your comment was fringe.
Let's have the courage to confront the meat.
It's a fringe comment? So what, fringe in the sense of I barely say it, or fringe in the sense of it's out completely outside of like where we should be expecting from your average American politician, and like almost and definitely beyond the pale? Like what do you mean by fringe here? Because I have an idea of fringe 100%.
I'm saying you drew a fringe comment from a much longer speech as I described you picking one fringe comment from a long speech that I gave to duck debate from the real issue that I think you don't want to have, Dana, because I think you probably agree with me on this, that this is toxic rhetoric from leading politicians on dividing us on the basis of race. And I want to have the open debate.
I think this debate is fascinating and interesting and opening and important. What I did was
I do too.
Sure, I bet you do.
Explain to our viewers that you were asked a question and you took it to a point where you called a sitting member of Congress who is black, who was having discussions about race, calling her the modern grand wizard of the KKK. And I'm just not sure how that's open and honest discussion. I want to move on, though, to another issue, a very important issue, and that is climate change.
Before I move on, I want to say that the question was...
Please.
No, never mind, actually. It's okay. Yeah, you can baby rage over there, brother. We're just going to keep it moving. We got to keep on moving. And as we keep on moving, let's talk about a little bit about his history with Donald Trump that came up as well, because there's a lot of stuff that this guy's been up to, and not a lot of it looks very good on him. Here is old comments on Donnie Trumpy, who he basically heralded as his as the new God King Emperor of the United States, except for like a couple of fringe things. But no matter what he does, no matter how many crimes he commits, he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and bro would still vote for him. So let's see what he actually had to say about Donnie back in 2018.
You said on Friday that a man-made climate change has existed as long as man has existed. But I want to read to you part of what the Trump administration said in a report. It said the Earth's climate is now changing faster than at any point in the history of modern civilization, primarily as a result of human activities. Do you acknowledge that that is true?
Here's what I acknowledge is true. Hard facts. The climate disaster-related death rate, tornadoes, hurricanes, heat waves, it is down by 98% over the last century. For every 100 people who died of a climate-related disaster in 1920, 2 die today. And the reason why is more abundant and plentiful access and use of fossil fuels. For every 100 people who died of a climate-related disaster in 1920, 2 die today. And the reason why is more abundant and plentiful access and use of fossil fuels. So the same.
We gotta do something about these people, man. If I say what I think, I'll be suspended. I'll be permanently suspended. So wait, give me a second. If I say what I think, I'll be permanently suspended. So I would like to keep my job on this platform real quick. Wait, one second. Give me a second. I need a second to think. True. Because of the rates of climate disasters increasing, we've gotten better at keeping people from dying from them. Sure. Okay. One thing he didn't bring up, which I think is really important, is famine, which has been getting worse. Droughts been getting worse. Yeah, we've been able to offset some of the issues with technology, but just because you offset some of the problems with technology does not mean that things are getting better. This is literally like being on the Titanic as it's sinking, and somebody runs to you and says that we need to leave immediately, the boat is sinking, and you say, I don't know what you're talking about, my side just got 100 feet higher. Like, okay, good for you. That's fine. Death, like literally just dying. How many people are getting displaced? All of that, like, what was it? Like 70% of Afghanistan was underwater. Is it still underwater? Remember that? Remember when like most of the country of Afghanistan was fucking underwater? Pakistan was mostly underwater. And it still might be today. I haven't kept up with the story as much. But like, this is crazy to me. Bro was standing right next to a guy from Florida. Inshallah, Florida won't exist in a couple decades if things keep going the way that they are. But like, I mean, like I would not care. Sink that shit into the ocean. Florida does need to experience a biblical plague. I hate to say it, but you know, so you got to clean that place out one way or another. But like, if we're all gonna be honest with ourselves, all right, the idea that simply because less people are dying and we're getting better at alerting people about the ever increasing natural disasters does not mean the natural disasters and fossil fuels are better and good. This is like, oh well, less people are dying of forest fires, so because we use fire to help put out other fires, so that means that readily access to fire is much better, even though it's what starts the forest fires to begin with. It just doesn't make any sense. You're just stupid. Reminds me of COVID denial, cherry picking death statistics. Well, that's where a lot of conservatives got their, started cutting their teeth on misrepresenting data from. Well, yeah, that's where a lot of conservatives started cutting their teeth when it comes to misrepresenting data from health organizations and studies and professionals for their own personal gain, obviously.
Same anti-fossil fuel agenda today is actually resulting in more deaths than climate change or man-made climate change itself. 8 times as many people today are dying of cold temperatures rather than warm ones. And the right answer.
Extreme heat and extreme cold are both symptoms of climate change. It's called climate change, not thing get too hot change. I'm losing my fucking mind. Oh, I'm losing it, dude. I'm losing it. Cold, like severe cold snaps, hail, all that type of stuff. They're all symptoms of. There's a reason why they call it climate change and not simply global warming anymore. And bro is also still talking about weather and not climate, which are two incredibly different things. But okay.
Right. Okay.
Actually, it was cold today. My side of the Titanic just got 100 feet higher.
Temperature-related deaths is more plentiful access to fossil fuels. That's the reality. Is the climate change agenda and the policies are killing more people than climate change.
As you know, it's not about people dying today. It's about what is going to happen.
Oh, I think it is all about people dying
short-term,
today,
in the short term and long term. I want to read more of the Trump administration report and specifically some of the areas where this climate crisis will affect. Transportation system damages, poor air quality, deteriorating human health, flooded coastal properties, and it goes on and on and on. So my question for you is about the remedy. If you don't want to cut fossil fuels, which you just said, you don't want to cut carbon emissions or promote clean energy, what would your policies be to slow things like droughts, like flooding, and other damage to our planet?
We won't. What? Just die. I think his unironic plan is that, like, he played Metro once and he was like, that sounds like a great idea. All we need to do is just build a giant bubble around people so the climate change just won't affect us, and then we'll be fine.
I think we should focus on adaptation and mastery of any change in the climate through technological advances powered by fossil fuels. And
he wants to live in the Wall-E world. Oh my gosh, he wants to live in the Wall-E world. Oh my gosh, he watched Wall-E and he was like, actually, that's fine. Holy shit. Every single science fiction movie where like Earth is no longer livable and we're just like floating through the stars or whatever. Holy shit, he genuinely thinks that that's the thing. Oh, we're not going to solve climate change. We're actively going to make it worse. We know we're making it worse, and that's fine. We're just going to build pods to leave Earth one day. And then we'll get a cool, sick Wall-E scene out of it, and that'll be sick, won't it? Just how to be, bro's like, how do we solve climate change? And he's like, how to become immune to all cancer. Oh, he's Chairman Drek from Ratchet and Clank. Holy shit, he is. His climate change policy is, it is what it is. All right. Okay. Burn more. Well, he is Mr. Capitalism himself, so it's not really surprising that his solution to climate change is more capitalism, which has been exacerbating the problem and destroying our country. So, I mean, like, it's not surprising, but it's just, I just hate to see it. I always hate to see it. I'm going to be honest with you. And if you wanted a better response to... But yeah, that was just crazy. But some of you all, I know you all were hankering for a better answer for the racism question that he got on CNN. Once again, CNN has always been incredibly lib-pilled, and now it's conservative-pilled because it's just completely filled with right-wing hacks and losers and goons and fiends because the head of Warner Bros. Discovery is now like a complete conservative hack who thinks that CNN should be more conservative, and so that's why it's now one of the least popular like primetime TV shows on the entire news sphere, which is, I think, really funny. I've always hated CNN. I never thought almost anybody on there did good work. Some of them definitely did, but MSNBC, if I'm going to be honest with you, is where it's at. And NBC as well does good work, and you're going to see it here because Chuck Todd, friend of the stream Chuck Todd, picked it up where CNN put it on the ground.
I think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left. Why is this a lot more pervasive on the right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy like this one. The fact is, there are more black men dying on the south side of Chicago.
Do you ignore the elements that allowed this manifesto to spread online, and that it does feel as if social media connects some of these hateful ideologies?
Well, What is a specific type of race-based killing trying to literally exterminate an entire race of people? Well, did you see that, like, in Chicago someone died? So I think this is like a left and right thing. Okay. All right. Well, did you see that in Albuquerque, New Mexico, someone died? So honestly, dying is it's not crazy. It happens all the time. Have you heard about the transgenders recently?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I do think we have two standards that we're even applying if we're having a conversation about manifestos. We still have not yet even seen the...
You ever think about how the wokeites still say manifesto when they really should be saying I'm sorry.
Manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school, and yet here we're focusing on the motive. So if we want to look at this through...
This is also transphobia, trying to say that trans people are like the natural predator of Christians or so. He actually started talking about them transgenders. It's just crazy to me. Do you guys think that's true? Do you think that trans people are the natural predators of Christians? I guess we are, though. What the fuck? What about the trans one? Just going, oh yeah, look at their skin tone, it must have been a hate crime. Or just look at their genitals, it must have been a hate crime. No, you can't do that. That's not how that works. That's not how that... Yes? What the fuck? What about the manifesto? What the fuck? It should be womanifesto. That is true. It should be womanifesto. Yeah, something like that. Person of festo persuasion. Leeches, parasites. True. It's true the transgenders go after the Christians to make them one of their own. They do try to they did walk into... Now, the problem with that shooting that happened in Tennessee is that if you kept up with... A lot of people like dropped the story after a while, but if you kept up with the story, you would have known that after the police raided the person's home, they found that in their house was the forcible trans ray that was in there, and they accidentally forgot to bring the forcible trans ray, and they accidentally brought their gun instead, their actual firearm instead. And so it was just all a huge misunderstanding, you know.
A politicized lens, let's look at what the political media and the political establishment is doing differentially in how they analyze different crimes and then create a new narrative around it.
I think
when I don't know, it's just like, how in the world can you sit here and try and say that a politically motivated mass shooting is being politicized when you talk about the politics of the politically motivated mass shooting that are based on race? And then you talk about why race and like politics lead to people doing politically motivated race-based mass shootings. I guess. Sure. Cool. I guess. And then he clapped him once again on another one. It's just proof again that CNN is just complete charlatans.
So you know,
consequence
your
of the
argument
so-called anti-racist movements.
Your argument comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for the rise in racism.
Well, the fact is, Chuck, I don't want to be playing a blame game. I want to be going towards a solution.
But I'm going to be
and I am genuinely worried that those who earnestly espouse the view, I'm going to quote Ibram Kendi from his book directly, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, says the right answer to past discrimination is present discrimination. The right answer to present discrimination is future discrimination. I believe the people who hold that view are earnest about it, but I think they're wrong. And I think that that's actually creating more discrimination and more division in our country.
That's factually correct, though. So here's the thing: is that I think Ibram Kendi's kind of cringe, and I don't agree with everything that he's written. But that being said, this part is just kind of true, but it's poorly worded. How do you fix race-based problems without race-based solutions? Is a better way to word that, because like the question is, if you think about it, how do you fix race-based problems without race-based solutions? How do you fix past discrimination on a specific race of people without targeting those race of people again to fix that problem? How in the world do you do that? How does that happen? And when you think about it for a second, you realize that it doesn't really happen, and it's really hard to do or near impossible to actually do for them to catch up. Anyways, back to what we were doing.
And I think the right answer is actually to restore colorblind equality, colorblind meritocracy, embrace what unites us across our diversity instead of celebrating our skin-deep diverse attributes. That's how I think we reunite this country, Chuck. And it's not blaming anybody else for having a different point of view, but I do think that as a leader, it's my job to articulate exactly how we will unite this country. And that's exactly how I'm going to.
We're going to make sure that we never fix any of the problems that were done to you, and we just kind of forget. So everybody who did something wrong to you and all of the money that was taken from you is just going to stay gone, and we're not going to fix that. But now that you're so far behind that in some places, just so you know, in Maryland, the net worth of your average black person is $7. I don't mean 7,000. I don't mean 700. I don't even mean 70. I mean literally $7.00. $7 is the net worth of your average black person. Due to redlining, due to racism, slavery, taking away generational wealth, all of these things. And so you sit here and you tell me that, $7 total. And so all we need to do is just let them play, you shoot, now we let them run. There's no difference between what he's saying and that, okay, so here's the thing. Somebody, bam, shot you in the leg. Somebody shot this guy in the leg right before you take off running. But we're not gonna patch you up. We're not gonna get an ambulance or something. We're not even gonna call off the race. You are now free in this meritocratic system to run. And if you win, you win. And if you lose and get last place or die on the field, that just means that you just weren't cut for it, because we live in a meritocratic system where the people who do the best earn the most. Right, guys? Totally wrong. It just doesn't make any sense. Of course not. They're trying to look past all those problems because solving problems is difficult. Pretending that they don't exist is very easy, especially if you're a Republican. And so, because a lot of them don't even understand the problems to begin with. So why the fuck would they ever try to solve them? Because they never can see them. They live their lives with blinders on. They can only see one thing: money and power. Which is one thing. Money and power is one thing, because money in a capitalist society, money equals more power. And sure, you can have some power without as much money, but technically, it would. You understand? You get it. You would understand it, okay? You get it. Just try harder, loser. Yeah, it's a try harder, loser type situation. But it's just incredibly stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And this is why this guy just has absolutely no idea what he's doing and why he won't get anywhere in a general. But I think he will get far in several primaries. And in some places where it's just a clean Republican sweep, I can see him getting office somewhere. But when it comes to just your average human being, he turns off everyone. Independents, obviously left-wingers, and a lot of Republicans as well, because of his ties to Donald Trump and how absolutely insane he is on things like climate change and on other topics as well. Racism is a big one, because a lot of Republicans, they don't care much for racism, but when you're so far out and you're talking about it so much and you make it look that bad, then it's hard for them to ignore, and they'd probably go for someone else who at least says who at least keeps the quiet part quiet, so they can at least forget about it and not have to worry about it, because the mental strain it takes that to say that you're definitely not racist and the left wing people are racist, while you also don't give a shit about actually trying to solve any of these issues. How you blow up one person's ladder and then you give someone a golden ladder, and you give someone a gold plated escalator, and you tell them to get to the second floor of a building with no stairs. And whoever makes it first is the person who worked harder. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, obviously. But he's a rich person, a businessman, and a businessman that makes money off the suffering of other human beings, specifically people who are dying of illnesses. So it's not like I would be surprised that he would act like this. It's just sad and gross to see it again. But that's what's going on. We'll do an even deeper dive into him and his past sometime soon, but not at the moment. But that is the fallout from directly after the debate. And so far, it's not looking good. Come here. Oh. Hi. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it. Thank you, Boo.